Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical HeliCASTS. In this episode of the Hangar Z Podcast, Vertical Valor's Scott Dworkin and I visit the Kern County Sheriff's Department Aviation Unit at their hangar in Bakersfield, California. While we were there, we got to witness the operation of their impressive aviation program. During the podcast, we discussed the evolution of their aviation program, talk about the aircraft they fly, the missions they support, and the challenges they face in their operations. We talk about the importance of oil and agriculture in their local economy, the legacy of country music in Bakersfield, and the assignments available at the Kern County Sheriff's Department. The conversation touches on mental health and law enforcement and ends with some lighthearted conversations from the field. We get an opportunity to talk about the advantages we gain from new and developing technology in law enforcement aviation, the importance of partnerships, and the role of debriefs in improving operations. We also touch on the challenges faced by air support programs and the importance of tracking and reporting data. Overall, the conversation provides insights into the operations and advancements in law enforcement aviation. Thank you to our sponsors, Robinson Helicopters, Precision Aviation Group, and Anodyne Electronics Manufacturing.
Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical HeliCASTS. The Hangar Z Podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Join your host, John Gray, Jeff Ratkovich, and Jack Shanley.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Stand by here. Looks like you're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, threw the shotgun, threw something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
4 on the stop. You're in custody.
Good advising code 4 on the stop.
Hey, welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast. I'm your host, John Gray, coming to you on location from the hangar of the Kern County Sheriff's Department. They were kind enough to invite us up to their place. Scott Dworkin and I came up and we're doing a joint collaboration on a project for MHM Vertical Valor magazine. And again, you guys have allowed us to come up, took us on some really cool flights, got some great footage of what you guys do, covering the new aircraft you guys got, which I'd like to talk about in depth, and just got a really cool insight into your unit and the area you guys get to operate in. So thank you, first of all, for allowing us to come to your house and check it out and spend time with you guys. Appreciate it. With the Hangar Z Podcast, we have a lot of traditions. Well, two in particular. One's the hot seat, and two's drink of the day. You know, being that we're on location in a sheriff's facility is probably not a good idea to do drink of the day. We'll bypass that. And I think of the interest of time, we'll bypass the hot seat as well. Our day got derailed a little bit. We went to a really awesome lunch spot, and I think we ended up spending a little more time than we anticipated at lunch, but it was amazing. So thank you guys for the introduction to that. Good Italian's always top of the list of things to do any town you go to. It's either Italian or Mexican, or the two go-tos.
Yep.
So
California.
Yeah. You talk about leaving California. A lot of people talk about it. And one of the reasons I can never leave Southern California is I couldn't leave the good Mexican food that exists in Southern California. I'd like to start off with introductions. If you guys just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background, what your current assignment is, and how long you've been in the unit. And we'll go from there. And Tim, we'll start with you and you just go from there.
Sure. My name is Senior Deputy Tim Coffrin. I'm the Senior Deputy over here at the Flight Air Support Unit. One of my main role is the flight instructor for the unit, and I've been here 21 years and looking at retirement here soon. So my primary goal right now is get everybody up to speed and get everybody's certifications that we can get before I get out of here and allow the unit to keep on rolling. But my background, I'm coming on I'm in my 26th year with the Sheriff's Office. 21 years of that I've spent here at the Air Support Unit. I came in like anybody else, started out as a tactical flight observer, and went through flight training and progressed through all of our different airframes and mission types that we do, all the way up to obviously instructor. And so trying to just keep that progression going in the unit. So
You're just a little bit of experience, 21 years in air support.
Yeah, I got a couple minutes logged.
Well, you've seen the transition and the evolution of not just the program here locally, but the program worldwide and nationwide. So it'll be cool to kind of dig through that and talk about how things have changed for the better or worse over the course of your experience in air support. I know just the 10 years that I was involved, things change dramatically with technology, and
Right.
you know, the culture of law enforcement has changed a lot in that time too, and I know you've seen that over the course of your career. So that'll be interesting to dig through that. I think the biggest thing is the evolution of the aircraft that you guys have flown. At least that's the most visible thing as we're looking at your hangar. It's cool. We're sitting in your hangar. It's actually not too hot, thankfully. Coming to Kern County, we tried to time it.
Come back next week.
Yeah.
We tried to time it before it got too hot, and it's the end of May and almost June, and thankfully we beat the summer heat. But we're sitting in an open hangar, and we're sitting in front of one of your brand new H-125s that's flanked by a MD-500E model. It's really cool seeing the two different aircraft and kind of the legacy aircraft. And then just behind that 500 is another brand new H-125. Pretty cool to see that and sit here visually seeing the evolution of your guys' hangar.
Yeah, that spans the entire existence of our full-time unit. Once back in, I think Bob knows the exact date, but back in the 80s, when we went from a part-time volunteer unit back to a full-time, or into a full-time unit, we purchased two of them, this one of them, in 1986. They were brand new off the showroom floor. Interestingly, they started out as Hughes helicopters, and then they sold the McDonnell Douglas, and finished up off the assembly line at MD. So if you look in the helicopter, you'll see the foot pedals. One will be a Hughes foot pedal, one MD. So we've had them that long. We've taken excellent care of them. They've got this many years out of them, and now the last couple of years, our department's been in a position where we've been able to upgrade to newer technology and more performance and things that we need for the areas that we operate in. So, yeah, that's our history right behind us.
Did you get a chance to go to MD's facility in Arizona and fly?
I have.
You came up here? Yeah, what a beautiful area to fly.
It's fun down there.
What was your experience like out there?
It was hot.
Yeah.
But, they got great instructors down there. I've flown with probably 4 or 5 different instructors over there, and each one of them has something really cool to offer that I've never done. So it's nice because being the instructor here, I obviously teach the things that I know. So it's nice to go out, like to MD Factory School or Airbus School or something where you get exposure to things you haven't seen before, and then bring those back and incorporate them. So, but they have a great training facility out there. Enjoy going.
Yeah, that flight along the river, just outside of Falcon Field, into the rock pile and all that stuff there, man, that's one of the coolest flights.
Yep.
The day I flew, there was a bunch of wild horses running through the reservation out there.
Uh-huh.
That was cool. But what we don't see here, because it's not here, is the other 500 you guys have that recently got acquired by Kings County, which is not far from here, right?
Yeah, just north of us.
Pretty cool to see them take possession of that, and the legacy lives on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, they're both still great, capable aircraft. We kind of outgrew them for what we do. I mean, we're up in the high Sierras all the time doing missions up there, and for years we did that and did it safely. But you're right on the margin, and so the new Airbus gives us a lot more capability to do that, what we do up there. But for Kings County, I mean, they're landlocked down in the valley, and that'll be an excellent aircraft for them.
And the flights we did up here, you're right. You depart out of your airport within 10 minutes. You're in the mountains. You're climbing.
Yep.
To significant terrain, and the highest peak here is about 8,000 feet. Is that right?
It's a little 9 Mount Pinos.
Yeah, it's just under 9. It's 8,800 feet.
Okay, so you definitely have a need for some performance when it comes to the missions you guys are completing, and we'll want to dig into that as we go. But you've got a lot of history here. You know a lot of the history of this unit. Can you introduce yourself and what your current role is here?
Yeah, so I'm Sergeant Robert Riggs. Been with the Kern County Sheriff's Office for about 24 years, and I started as a aircraft mechanic, a civilian aircraft mechanic in the air unit, and then went through the extended academy. Took me about 3 years to go to the academy. I was a pilot prior to coming here. I started flying in high school, had my CFI and all that. So CFI AMP, came here, and had no interest in being a cop. But while I got here and started talking to them and hearing the stories and all that, I thought, well, maybe this is something I'd want to do. So went through the extended academy. My first night in a patrol car was just a ride along as a reserve deputy, and Tim was a brand new observer at the time. I remember coming back to work the next day because I knocked a fence down, tackled a guy in the backyard, and Tim was over me with the light on and all that. I came in just jazzed. My wife didn't want me to be a cop, but I came home from that night and I said, sorry, babe, I know I told you I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to be a cop. So Anyways, I went to the once got hired as a deputy. I had a 5-year plan. I thought, I'm already an AMP and a CFI. I'm a shoe-in. So I had a 5-year goal to get back into the air unit, and it took me about 15 years to achieve my 5-year goal and got back into the air unit. So
it's crazy. We talk about timing and the role that plays in the development of your career. Some folks have the luxury of getting here in a short amount of time, relatively. Get here within a couple of years, you're in air support, and others it takes a long time.
Yep.
It just highlights the importance of timing and what that plays in your career. But like you said, you had an early start in aviation. That's kind of where everything started. Can you talk about your early experiences as an AMP and how that kind of lent into your development as a pilot and as a supervisor for the air support unit?
Well, yeah. So I'm supervising. We do our own in-house maintenance. So I'm the supervisor over that, and so having that understanding, especially when it comes time to budget and time for the maintenance and the time estimates and all that stuff, I have a background, and we'll lend a hand if they need something. But yeah, it's huge to have that aviation background, and that's one of the things we've lost over the years. As we had supervisors come and go, they'd come in, and you're always starting over from day one, training the supervisor, especially with aviation and the cost. That's a huge sticker shock for people to realize how much the training costs, how much we need to keep training all the time. And if you don't have supervisors that have that kind of background, you're constantly banging your head against the wall trying to show, hey, we have to be doing this stuff. So I think that's given me a real advantage with my background in aviation even before becoming a deputy. And
then you talk about going to flight school here with the helicopters and having kind of a general understanding mechanically of these systems, and then now you're performing EPs. Just you talk about the ability to understand the systems, and then when you perform EPs, kind of being able to troubleshoot the problem that you're experiencing, and how having that mechanical background helps you kind of identify those and then execute whatever the thing is.
Right. So actually, I think I was telling you before we started talking, especially when I'm teaching, one of the problems I have as an instructor and an AMP is I sometimes go a little too in depth, but my students get a little glassy eyed, like they don't need to know, what seals in the governor or something. But anyhow, yeah, obviously when you're out there and you're doing emergency procedures and you're have a background of the knowledge of how the aircraft works, I know in my mind I'm always thinking of the structures and the way the hydraulic systems are working and all that stuff. So yeah, it's really a good advantage for teaching it and obviously using it. So
yeah, I know for me, and I don't know about for you guys, but the early parts of learning the systems, I had to study a lot because I didn't have that mechanical understanding of how these systems work, and they're super complex, each system by itself. So having that advantage in the beginning, I think, is huge. Gives you the mental bandwidth to tackle other things that may be challenging, right, as opposed to having to focus on the one thing that's, more complex.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that. And you have a unique amount of knowledge on the history of the unit. So I'm excited to kind of dig into the history of the unit and how it's developed. Talked about being a part-time program, and now it's a full-time program. So that'll be cool to dig through. Mr. Brewster.
Yes, sir.
I almost want to call you Punky. That was that was one of the names that was thrown around earlier.
You and about a million other people.
It's there for posterity now.
We actually talked about the movie Brewster's Millions, which is a great movie.
Oh yeah.
It's like the scene in Office Space where the guy's like calling Michael Bolton and he gets so annoyed. So I picture you as the same thing. You got the movie, and then you've got Punky Brewster, which I forgot about, to be honest, until it came back up. But anyways, thank you for joining us, and just give us a little background on yourself and how you wound up in air support.
Thanks to our sponsor, Anodyne Electronics Manufacturing, a leading manufacturer of trusted special mission avionics for law enforcement, aerial firefighting, and utility operators. Visit www.aem-corp.com and learn how AEM's digital communication and loudspeaker systems, avionics consoles, radios, and specialty audio products can support your most demanding missions.
My name's Stephen Brewster. I'm a deputy and currently right now a tactical flight officer for the Kern County Sheriff's Office. I originally started in this unit while I was employed with the Bakersfield Police Department, which Bakersfield being the largest city here in Kern County. The county had flew a position over to the city looking for a TFO, and I put in for it, somehow got it. maybe against their better judgment, but got the spot and did that for a couple years and really enjoyed it. I was about halfway through my commitment with the city. And even though I love assisting patrol and I loved being on patrol, everybody talks about their niche in law enforcement. I felt like this was mine, and I kind of took to it like a fish to water. And so I ultimately made the decision to lateral to the county and tried to eventually in the future get back to the unit. And luckily for me, that process was fairly expedited. So that happened in March of 2023. And as of now, I've already been down and gotten my private helicopter license through the county. And then right now I'm working on my commercial rating for helicopters. And so it's been, you talk about, right timing from coming to this agency to getting to mix it up with these guys and being here during this current generation and operating in the old aircraft and now transitioning to the new aircraft and really seeing all the added value and enhancements and capabilities that we have with these new aircraft. It's, to me, this is like the Goldilocks zone and the Goldilocks time zone to be in for our unit right now. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Timing's like we just talked about. It's crazy. Almost different stories and 180 degrees different. You guys are sitting next to each other, but you get to operate under the same roof.
Right.
And then same thing here with the aircraft. You got the brand new H-125 with all the most advanced avionics, mission equipment that is available today. And we got the 500 behind us with steam gauges and, the mission equipment that you guys, actually there's no mission equipment on that I can see. There's no camera.
Yeah,
no
so
light.
it's stripped down for my training right now, but it normally has the FLIR 8500 and then an SX-16 Night Sun on it also.
Okay.
And then we do have shot over ARS in it. So it is still a really capable patrol helicopter, but it's set up for training right now.
Yeah. And what a cool platform to train in.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
What's your experience been so far with training?
It's not a Robinson 44, that's for sure. I fully understand now what they mean when they say, flying a 500 is an experience in and of itself. It's an awesome helicopter.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah. They keep bringing this up, but they say you strap into a 500, and I believe that,
It's 100%.
It's a different feeling. I think a lot of helicopters you get into, or a lot of vehicles you get into, but you legitimately strap into that thing, especially when the door's off. That flight we did up the river to Lake Isabella, I imagine that thing has got to be wild.
It's
fun.
a fun ride. Yeah. Fun ride.
Yeah. How cool. Well, thank you guys again for joining us. I know you guys got a lot on your plates. Seen all the activity in here, between all the mechanics and everybody that's coming and going. I know you guys are busy, so thank you for taking time to talk with us. As we departed out of here in our earlier flights, I got a kind of an idea of what Kern County's like. But maybe can you describe, for those that aren't familiar with Kern County and where it lies in California, the county itself and kind of the demographics that lie within the county?
So Kern County is just north of the Grapevine area of the mountains. We're a huge county, 8,100 square miles, and but not very populated. We have about 800,000 citizens. Most of them live in Bakersfield. About half the population's in Bakersfield. So it's a really spread out, diverse area. Farmlands in the valley. We have the Sierras. We've already talked about the high mountains that we go to. Then we have the Mojave Desert out to the east. All of it, we respond to all of it. We have Edwards Air Force Base out on the east side. We have the Kern River that flows right through the middle of our county. That provides us a lot of searches. The Pacific Crest Trail across the Sierras goes right through here. That's a busy trail for us. We get a lot of call-outs for that for searches. And then obviously the desert with the temperature changes and things you can have, and from the hot heat in the day to the cold nights, we get a lot of rescue calls out there.
Yeah.
So it's a real diverse county.
I think a lot of people that think of California, they think of palm trees and the beach. Right. But when you look at a lot of the counties within California, you have a lot of what Kern County is. A lot of valleys with huge mountain peaks in between, and just kind of every operating environment that you could possibly think of from an aviation standpoint. As far as training goes, how do you guys keep up with the training and the requirements to keep you proficient to fly in these different environments? Maybe we should ask you, Tim, on that.
So we do a lot of our own in-house training. Typically, we'll take someone that's brand new and bring up through their private, through their commercial, we've had to switch out on that a little bit recently, and we're hoping to get right back to it. But I'll do a private, I'll do their commercial, and then once they're certified to fly, we start just kind of baby steps in our flying program. They'll fly our Air 1 or patrol shifts here in the valley, and then we'll slowly move them up into the mountain areas, and then long line and full-blown search and rescue in the Huey and stuff like that. So we have a long, well-thought-out progression, and where we just take it real slow. There's no need to rush guys into doing things they shouldn't be doing yet.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels excruciatingly slow, especially if you're the guy in training. But it's just, it's a constant observation of their skill set and where they're at and what they're ready for next.
Yeah.
But we do it all here. We can do from private all the way up to commercial. We do all our MVG training. I have an endorsement to do, even initial MVGs, so we'll do all that here. And then we try to do regular proficiency flights where we're going out and doing EPs quite a bit. With the new airframe, we're not quite in a position to do as intense as we have been in the other aircraft, just because I don't have the experience in it and haven't been. I need a little more formal training to be able to provide that here. But like our 500s and our 58s, we go out and we're doing touchdown autos all the time and things of that nature. And from my mindset is to make those things a regular occurrence so that it's not a mystery or a surprise when, the actual event happens. They're well placed to be able to handle those emergencies and take care of them. So our training is pretty robust, and it seems to work for us.
It's cool that you guys are in a position where you have the in-house training options. A lot of agencies don't have that, the veteran training staff where they can go out and do a lot of this stuff on their own, which makes it difficult to stay current on a lot of the EP type stuff, because while you might say, I want to do this quarterly, when you have that quarterly schedule, you might have weather, you might have staffing issues that prohibit you from doing that. Whereas when you have an in-house training cadre, you can do it as time permits.
Yeah.
And that makes that flexibility huge. So cool for that. Going back to the county, and I'll open this up to the three of you because I think you all have experience in the oil fields. Again, going back to our flight out of here, as we departed, there's a huge oil field that I actually never have seen an oil field like that before. At first, I didn't know what I was looking at. You take off and I'm like, what is that? And there are all these oil pumps. I don't even know if that's the right word, but it's a huge part of the economy here in Kern County and in Bakersfield in general. Can you guys talk about the importance of oil when it comes to Kern County and your local economy?
Yeah, so oil has been king in Kern County for my entire life. Oil and ag is the big economy drivers here, and almost you can't find an industry that oil doesn't touch in Kern County. All of our manufacturing industries, housing industry, all that is driven by oil. It's an industry that California's kind of suppressing, so it's affected us quite a bit. Like you said, you can see how big this oil field is. I was actually preparing for this, looked it up. We're the 7th largest oil production county in the country.
Wow.
So it's a huge part of our economy.
So I'd imagine every family's got somebody, at least one person that's working in the industry. Have you guys all had a chance to work in that industry at some point during your life?
I have. My dad, he's spent his entire working career in oil. Worked for a local refinery for many years, and then opened up his own. He was a pump mechanic. Opened up his own pump mechanic shop, and he employed me for a couple seasons. And I think he did it purposely, just to make me realize that if you can do something else, do it. That it's incredibly hard work, and it takes a special person to be able to do that for a whole career. So,
is that still a big employer within the county as far as working in the oil fields and the supporting industries?
Yeah, there's probably very few families in town that doesn't have somebody employed by oil or some aspect of it. It's the thing with oil, it's not just working in the oil fields; it's all the industries attached to it. You got. If you're drilling an oil well, you got guys that make the drill bits and the companies that supply them to be able to do that. It's far stretching.
Yeah, you have pipe companies, you have pumping companies, you have transportation companies, you have manufacturing companies, the drilling companies themselves, the maintenance contractors that work out there, and then when you get into the maintenance side of it, on the support side, you have everything from equipment operators and equipment maintainers for all of the pressure gauges, to the electronics, to the electricians that work out there, the dirt worker guys that are building new, processing facilities. And it's funny that you asked. Working in the oil fields is actually the reason I became a police officer to begin with, because I was driving 60 miles every day out to Bell Ridge from my house. And it was on that hour-and-a-half drive out there, an hour-and-a-half drive back after a 12, 16-hour day. It was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
And so I thought, what could keep me local? And I was like, oh, well, if I work for the police department, which my dad was a police officer for the city my whole life growing up, so it wasn't outside of the realm of possibility. It was, a lot of those guys are still family to this day. And so that's kind of what motivated me to get into that. And then I found my stride there, and then it led to the air unit. But yeah, specifically working in the oil fields is the reason I became a police officer.
Yeah, it's interesting. You think about how the things you do over the course of your life, how they lend to the next thing, the building blocks for the next segment of your life.
Oh, yeah.
You don't even realize in the moment what that's going to do for you.
Absolutely.
I know you had some experience with like SMS type operations in the oil industry.
Yep.
How has that carried over? How will that carry over to what you're currently doing within air support?
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability, so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
Yeah, so right when I left the oil fields, I was a safety manager for a local construction/maintenance company that contracted out to the leases in Bell Ridge. My whole job was implementation of the SMS and safety management systems in the oil fields in an industry. And so that included, job safety plans, work site analysis, and things like that, and figuring out better processes to where we could do things safer. And, everybody thinks like, oh, a safety guy, like you're just, the safety police, and where's your gloves and your hard hat and this and that. And in reality, I really found my job is just how can we most effectively do our job to where we're limiting and mitigating, we're limiting any risk that we expose ourselves to, and we're making sure we have mitigations in place to account for those risks. And then you can do a risk analysis at the end of it to see what remains. And tying that to aviation, it's any high stress or high risk activities that we do, even in law enforcement. I gave a class for a couple of years at the city about, risk assessment on patrol and things like that. It's definitely translated. But I agree. Everything we do is a building block for the next section of our lives or the next chapter of our book.
That you have no clue what it might be,
Yeah.
And how that thing you're doing now or you did before lends into that. You brought up something that I like, and it's talking about, practices and protocols we have in place. And I think a lot of times we get in a rut and we do what we're doing because it's something we've done for a long time, we've always done,
This is how we've always done it.
Yeah. Why do we do that? Well, that's the way we've always done it. So I
I
like
don't see a problem with it.
The old guys never do.
Leave it to the new guys.
I like the idea of public safety agencies bringing in folks like yourself who've had essentially a career in another industry and bringing that experience and insight from those other jobs into what we're doing to ask some questions. And it's tough as a new person to ask questions. Why are we doing that? But having had experiences elsewhere and seen the benefits of doing things a different way, I think that's really great. So I like you bringing that experience here, and yeah, right on. That's cool.
I mean, they don't listen to me, but
Oh, yes, we do.
I'm kidding.
Yes,
no,
we do.
it's been awesome. It really has.
You guys brought up the ag industry. Can you talk about that and kind of the influence that has within your local economy and the demographics within the county?
So the whole Central Valley is ag. Everywhere you look around here, as you take off, it's fields of green. And it's really similar to the oil industry in the fact that so much of our manufacturing and other businesses like electronics, electrical, all that is driven by the ag. And it's still booming. I don't ever see, people are always going to want to eat. I didn't do any looking at any numbers of how big the ag industry here, don't know, but we feed a good portion of the country out of this valley. So,
and there's a lot of large scale farms that are based out of Kern County. I don't want to drop any specific names, but there's, they have farms and property in other states, but they're all based out of here. And, one example, there's a local grower here that has helped the aviation industry because they base all of their corporate flight out of here. And, that leads to maintenance contracts, to hangar space, to maintainers for the aircraft, to all kinds of things. So it's agriculture and oil has its fingers in almost every industry and job here in Kern County, I think.
Yeah. Again, going back to our flight, I'm going to keep going back to our flight because it was really cool. But today's flight, we flew up in the hills and saw some ranches that exist up there. And while that's not ag, it's kind of that Western culture. And today, as we're having lunch, we're talking about some of the Western culture that permeated your guys' town and industry. And I have to bring up Merle Haggard. My mom was a big Merle Haggard, Willie Nelson fan. And I remember growing up as a kid, she would listen to it in the car all the time. We'd take these road trips. I swear she'd play the same thing over and over and over again. Merle Haggard and Willie Nelson are the two that I listened to all the time. I hated it as a kid. And I said, I will never listen to country music. And that's pretty much all I listen to now. But can you guys talk about the legacy that they built and how they've kind of built that legacy here in Bakersfield?
Yeah, so Bakersfield is known as Nashville West. It's where the old-time country, a lot of it generated from. So, just out of Bakersfield, you got Buck Owens. He originated out of here. Merle Haggard comes out of Bakersfield. Dwight Yoakam, local, I think he's up in Tehachapi. He's out of this area. And then a lot of, all the players, session players, and everybody that goes along with them, a lot of them come out of here. So we got a long history of country music here in town. You can go down to Buck Owens Boulevard, and Buck's Museum is there in theater, and you walk through, you see all his memorabilia there, and he played on that stage pretty much till the day before he died, playing local shows and there every weekend. They all go out and do their big country star things, but they all kind of tended to migrate back here to Bakersfield from time to time and keep the place, and they're close to them. On the way out to the our flight today, there's going to the Kern River Canyon. There's one little property out there right before you get to the canyon, and that was built by Merle Haggard, and he lived there for many years. So a lot of connections here to Nashville and country music and things of that nature.
It's funny because driving around the town, it seems like it's a family centric town. It's hard to imagine walking into one of these honky tonks and seeing Merle Haggard or someone of his stature
absolutely.
Playing there, to their local crowd. That's just a wild thought for me. Kind of transitioning to the sheriff's department. Can you talk about the sheriff's department and kind of the overview of the services that they offer here within Kern County and the size of the department and those types of things?
Yeah, so it's 1,200 employees, and sworn, we have about 657 positions. Obviously, not all of them are filled now. We have the detention, so we operate the jail. We have 356 detention deputies. We provide all the law enforcement to unincorporated cities, operate the jails, the courthouse. The sheriff's office is a real diverse. We have SWAT, the bomb squad, the air unit. We have off-road patrol out in the desert. It's really kind of a great place to work if you want to do different assignments. We have substations out in the east, North County. So if you work for this, what's really neat about working for the sheriff's office is if you want to move around, it's almost like you can have a new job every couple of years. And it's a total different area, total different type of environment. Like I worked in Kern Valley for quite a while, and that's for a law enforcement officer is really kind of unique because you have all the stuff that goes with being in a mountainous rural area, fires, rescues in the river, all that type of stuff. As a deputy working in the city, you'd have no part of. But working up there, it's a completely different job. So it's kind of fun to move around every few years and just get a different feel for what we offer.
That's what I appreciate about the large agencies is the number of and variety of assignments. So if you do get tired of whatever it is you're doing, there's something else.
Absolutely.
So a 30-year career can be spent doing a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And never get bored of doing what you do. Although we're the exception, right? We get the aviation and you never want to leave.
You never want to leave once you're here. This is it.
It's a
But
lifelong career.
The fact that you guys have an aviation program is huge, so you talked about the substations. How many different substations do you have? I know we talked about it offline, I don't recall the number exactly. Was it
There's
13?
there's around that. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a close approximation.
So you guys generally, I'm assuming, are supporting those 13 different substations in addition to some of the other incorporated cities within the county?
Absolutely. We work with really close with Bakersfield Police Department. We talked with Steve's background. So we respond to their calls just as if it was our call for the county. We're over the city quite a bit. And we're the same thing with any of the other incorporated cities. We have all their frequencies, and we'll just go treat it like it's our officers. Our sheriff has a really good stand on that. He says, our city's my county. We'll offer the services. So it's makes it really quite nice for all our relationships with the other areas.
Unless you're taking their employees.
I don't foresee having another BPD TFO over here. I think I may have ruined that.
Well,
for some,
I was telling you before we got online here, or talking that BPD is pillaged our court or our jail. They go in there, book their prisoners, and then take our deputies. So when their staff teases us about us taking Steven, I always say, well, yeah, we've got one. You guys got 50. So,
Talking about our substations, having this asset is really nice because some of our subs are out in like really remote areas, and they can encompass huge response areas. And they're staffed with 6, 7, 8 deputies. Between a full schedule, you got to deploy those. So there's not a lot of deputies roaming around in those areas a lot of times. So we can get out in those areas and just provide a patrol service, and it's frequent. We'll come along something that's suspicious out in an area that would take a deputy hours to get to, and we can land and handle it, or call somebody out or something. But it provides a increased service to those areas that would otherwise see very little law enforcement presence.
Every agency that I know is dealing with retention issues, with staffing issues. So when you look at aviation and what it offers as far as being a force multiplier, it's essential now. I think for a lot of the history of aviation, we were a luxury in a lot of ways, and now I think we've become almost essential in the fact that you need these to service what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just gonna tag onto that. Me coming from the Bakersfield Police Department, it's a little bit different of a mentality when you have 6 units that are less than 30 seconds out at any given point, because you have such a large concentration of officers in a small little jurisdictional box. And so when I came to air support and I saw that some of our deputies up in the mountains, their back could be 20, 30 minutes away, and it's like somebody from CHP that heard it in the blind on the scanner and is en route to help them.
Yeah.
And so with our focus primarily being officer safety and making sure the boys and girls on the ground are safe, maybe it's my safety background or that, but being able to use these not only as a force multiplier, but us being actual deputies and being able to get out and help if they need help, for me, that brings peace of mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially for our guys and girls that are working up in the mountains or, in some of these more remote areas, taking that 40 minutes response time for their backing unit, we could launch and be there and have it solved in 40 minutes,
Yeah.
So it's, for me, that's where I get my biggest joy out of it.
Do you guys find yourselves landing to assist those deputies on the ground very often?
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over $150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
It doesn't happen too often, but it does happen.
That's cool.
Yeah, and we're always ready for it. We're looking for, if we're over a deputy's by himself, I'm always looking for an LZ, just getting ready to put it down, talking to the TFO and saying, okay, if he gets into trouble, I can put you right here in this field, and you're just a short walk to him. So, and we do put down quite a bit on stolen cars in the foothills, that type of stuff. Or we just did a rescue up on the Paiute Mountain last week, where deputies were being dispatched and from Kern Valley. They were probably a couple hours away drive time because it was way up in the mountains. We were already in the air over Tehachapi, so we diverted, landed, helped the people out. They were just stuck.
Yeah.
So we were able to dig them out.
Dug their car out.
Yeah, and got them on the road. And yep, and the deputies never even had to leave the substation because we were there within 8 minutes, I think, of the call.
Can you imagine the story that family told and they went home?
That's what we were telling. Yeah, this is a AAA from a helicopter.
Yeah.
They'll never forget
World's
that.
first flying tow truck.
Yep.
You brought up proactivity from the helicopter, and that's always an emphasis on a proactive patrol flight. But I think the level of proactivity you're talking about kind of goes to a whole new level. We talked about as we're flying up the river today what that proactivity looks like. Can you kind of go back to that and talk about those proactive flights up the river, kind of what you're looking for and what that does?
We have running through our county here is the Kern River. It's the main river that runs and supplies water down here to the valley, but it's a very treacherous river. I think it's rated like the 3rd fastest dropping river in the world. It's incredibly fast-flowing river. And we get a lot of people that go up there during the summer and picnic and fish and swim and get in trouble really quick and really easily. So it's remote. There's not, it's in a steep canyon, so you just body cell service up there. So we spend a lot of the time in the summer flying that river, just keep an eye on it, make sure there's nobody in trouble. And it's not infrequent that we won't find somebody stranded on a rock or holding on to a tree or flagging us down because somebody's in the water. And we try to stay proactive with that river because a lot of people get in a lot of trouble quickly.
Talking about proactivity with that, last year we were on a search down here in the valley floor, but on the Kern River, of somebody that went in. They saw him pop back up and then went back underwater and didn't see him again. And while we were searching for that guy, we found another victim that was clung to a tree that we wound up having to divert from the first rescue to help that guy out. And then once he was off, then we went back to the original rescue we were on.
Jeez. I feel like water-related calls are one of the most traumatic types of calls that we deal with in law enforcement, at least from my perspective. I remember one of the first calls that I went on was a young child that had drowned in a pool. Those are the things that always stick with you as you progress through your career. So the fact that you guys are dealing with that on a pretty constant basis is difficult. Can you talk about some of the mental health side of things that go into dealing with those types of calls and the frequency level that you guys deal with?
Mental health, like from our part, or
yeah, just how do you take care of yourself having seen that so frequently over the course of your career?
So I can kind of give a real life example. Back when we were doing hoist work in our Huey, we got dispatched for the Upper Kern for a victim of a drowning, and a family had gone up there camping. And there's a stretch of the river up there where it doesn't look treacherous, but like we talked about earlier, you only see the surface, you don't know what's underneath it. And so their 11-year-old daughter got in the water and got in trouble, got sucked into a rock, and we came in and had to I was working the hoist, so I put the rescuer down on the rock, and they were able to pull her out of the river, put her in the litter, and bring her in the helicopter. Well, my background before working here was as a paramedic, and so when someone's in trouble, I can recognize it. And so as she was coming in the helicopter, you can hear me on the video saying, "Oh, she doesn't look good," and she was showing a lot of signs of head trauma. And so we brought her down here. They packaged her up at our local hospital and sent her down to Children's down in L.A. And she ended up surviving it. And we kept in touch with the family for quite a while. It was kind of cool to see. With that background, you learn how to deal with that kind of stuff. You kind of compartmentalize it and you put it in a place and it kind of lives there, and you go on and deal with stuff. And otherwise, I mean, the stuff that we get exposed to, not only us, but the guys on the ground, if you can't find a way to deal with that, it's pretty difficult. You know, it's a long career of dealing with that stuff. So
yeah, I mean, just one of your guys is retiring in 2 days. We got to do his last flight yesterday, and he's going to walk out of here happy and healthy, and that's the goal that we all have at the end of our career. But I think a big part of that is taking care of the mental health side of things, you know.
And we all find ways to I mean, you know, you don't want to carry that baggage around with you forever, and we all figure out ways to deal with it and unload it, you know, whether it be through our private lives with our family or hobbies or, you know, different outlets that we have. But working in this type of field, it takes a special person to be able to deal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think part of it's that, and then the support systems that you build around yourself. I mean, for me, I'm pretty blessed in that my father was a police officer my whole life growing up. You know, my mom worked in ERs. My brother is an EMT for a while, and my wife is a respiratory therapist. So as a whole, it's really easy to go to people and talk about stuff. Not that, you know, I talk about every single little thing. I don't want to put all my burdens on them, but the things that are really affecting me, you know, I've been in this career field long enough that we've experienced tragedy and stuff that's hit close to home. For me, it's just the support systems has been the most beneficial thing.
Yeah. That community is vital,
Yeah.
you know, and this area, like I said, community is kind of what comes to mind here. A lot of people, it seems like, have lived here for a long time. So I'd imagine there's a lot of long-standing relationships, and a lot of those support structures are in place, which is vital.
Yeah, our department's really gone, you know, most departments now are on this trend of developing wellness programs and things, because they've all identified that, you know, there's a lot of baggage that goes on in this profession, and we need to figure out how to deal with it. So our department's no different. You know, we've got a pretty good wellness program now. There's local resources. I'm the president of our Deputy Sheriff Association, and we partner with some local providers that can provide mental health services as needed, and it is completely separate from the county. So there's, you know, it's completely anonymous, and we've actually seen gotten quite a lot of participation in those programs. So
That's great.
especially these younger kids, you know, back in the old school days, like when I came, it's like you didn't talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
You put it away and you moved on to the next one, and don't ever bring it up again. And you know, we've learned over the years that that's not the way to do it. And so this younger generation that we're bringing up, they weren't, you know, they were brought up different, and they're willing to engage in those services and participate. And
Yeah.
and
I think that's huge.
Yeah.
You know, second generation police officer. My dad started in the late 60s. So I saw him progress through his career and all his peers. And you look at the things that they experienced over the course of their careers and didn't deal with it. And you look at the culture that we had during those times. Divorce rates were through the roof, bankruptcy through the roof, all the things that kind of surround, I think they're symptoms of this larger problem that we've now, I think we've demystified the idea of getting help and making that a part of your career, which is great, because I think it's going to lend to longer longevity, especially in a time when retention's huge, right? Every agency needs every body they have to be in that position for as long as possible. So again, going back for us selfishly, or not selfishly, but you want to get to the end of your career healthy and happy. Happy and healthy.
I'll take either.
Either one. Either one.
So anyway, sorry for the rabbit hole in that one, but I touched on
problem.
it as much as possible. I really do think it's important, you know, because we do see a lot of things that most people don't see, and I think we convince ourselves that we see it and we have to be okay with it because that's our job, and it's true, but it doesn't mean that you can't get help for it, you know. So I like that the culture's changed, and I think you are seeing a lot more, and maybe you can verify this. You're seeing a lot more officers of the younger generation, you know, not go through multiple marriages and have, you know, a little more success when it comes to some of those situations. Are you seeing that with a lot of your peers?
At the county, yes. You know, I think that's one aspect to it, but I think, you know, some of the things we see are just, it's the totality of circumstance in that individual's life that may lead to a divorce or something like that. I think this career definitely can be a contributing factor. I think I was blessed enough to get some pretty solid advice from my dad that had gone through this before, and, you know, to this day is still married to my mom, and, you know, they may bicker or argue or something like that, but it's only ever been love in my whole life growing up. So I think a lot of it, it just depends on the individual.
Yeah.
You know, because honestly, I still see a lot of young guys too that are, oh, I'm not going to talk about it. It's the machismo. You know, I'm not going to talk about this. And that's how I was for a long time, right up until I almost lost one of my best friends in my arms. That one kind of changed my perspective on everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's those things that hit home big time that really affect your perspective on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So kind of went through a segment that's a little dark, so I could lighten the mood a little bit. You know, we do see those impactful calls, and you kind of brought one up with that lady that survived. which is cool because I feel like a lot of the stuff we do in law enforcement, we don't necessarily get a lot of positive feedback. So the rescues you guys do, if you get a chance to reunite the victim, how cool. But as you guys think through the course of your career, I always like to go to the things that are funny because we really do see the funniest things on earth. As people, I don't know how else to say it, but you can't be dumb enough to do things unless you're these people that are criminals. I don't know how they think of these things. Like just today, there was a guy on TV that you probably saw, he was zooming into a court proceeding. He's got a suspended driver's license, and he's literally driving his car. So, like,
I'm trying to park.
That's the typical kind of stuff that we see in the streets. So, looking for you, I'll start with you because yours is probably the most recent time in the streets. What was something that was funny that you can recall having worked patrol?
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support. Thanks to our sponsor, Anodyne Electronics Manufacturing, a leading manufacturer of trusted special mission avionics for law enforcement, aerial firefighting, and utility operators. Visit www.aem-corp.com and learn how AEM's digital communication and loudspeaker systems, avionics consoles, radios, and specialty audio products can support your most demanding missions. Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
As we wrap up this episode of the Hangar Z Podcast, we'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to the team at the Kern County Sheriff's Department Aviation Unit for allowing us to come into their hangar and giving us an inside look at their impressive aviation program. The stories shared, both serious and lighthearted, emphasize the dedication of these professionals as they navigate the challenges of air support operations. Thank you for joining us today as we explore the advancements in law enforcement aviation through the lens of the Kern County Sheriff's Department. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Hangar Z Podcast, and please do us a huge favor and leave us a rating and review on the platform you use to listen to the Hangar Z Podcast. Cheers.
Time to close up the hangar. Thanks for joining us on the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by HeliCASTS.